Not every horror movie follows the same old script where the good guys display all of the good qualities and the bad guys are the cruel, evil people that we're supposed to hate. Sometimes filmmakers will flip the script on its head and take the narrative in a different direction. This list here is going to be 10 thriller movies that feature a lead protagonist that displays villainous qualities and not exactly redeemable people throughout the movie. They may do good things, but maybe not for the right reason, and their end goals aren't exactly the most moral in the end. There will be a spoiler alert right now for this video because to discuss some of the bad qualities of the characters, some of the endings may be discussed in this video. I will put the timestamps for every movie in the description below, so if there's a movie you want to skip over because you haven't seen it, go for it. I will also put streaming services the movies are offered on as well, if they are. With that all out of the way, here we go. Number 10. Saw X. 2023. If you haven't seen any of the Saw movies 1 through 9 and just watched Saw X, you might be a little confused to how the main character could potentially be a true villain. Well, for those that have watched Saw 1 all the way through Saw 9, we know for a fact that John Kramer is a serial killer and was the antagonist for pretty much every other Saw movie that he appeared in. But in Saw X, they switched up the formula a little bit for us, which was nice to see, as I never thought I would be rooting for the 70-year-old serial killer to come out victorious in a horror movie. In Saw X, a sick and desperate John Kramer travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure in hopes of a miracle cure for his cancer, only to discover the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. After John, also known as Jigsaw, realizes he has been scammed for hundreds of thousands of dollars, he decides to put the scammers all in one dangerous life or death game, which may not be the correct way to handle the situation, but since he is a serial killer, he only knows one way to make them learn their lesson. But if you are like me, you will find yourself wanting the others to die at John Kramer's hands, which may not be the noble thing to do. Number 9. Don't Breathe 2, 2021. Another sequel on this list, Don't Breathe 2 follows a 2016 horror movie by the name Don't Breathe. In the original one, the villain of the movie is a blind army veteran. We never actually find out his name through either movie. And a bunch of thieves break into his house to steal $250,000 he has in his safe. But whenever they get in, he finds them and tries to kill all of them. At the climax of the film, we find out that the blind man has held a girl captive in his basement ever since she killed his daughter in a drunk driving accident a few years prior. He is holding the girl captive so that he can impregnate her and get a new daughter. So yeah, this dude is pure evil. But when the sequel rolls around, the filmmakers decided to make the blind man the sympathy protagonist that just had his daughter kidnapped from him, and he goes through hell and back to try and bring her back home. So we did a complete 180 in terms of likability, and it was just odd the filmmakers were trying to make us feel sorry for the guy as if we haven't seen the first movie. But I will be honest, I was on his side for the sequel. I don't know if that makes me a terrible person or not though. Number 8. My Bloody Valentine, 2009. This one will get into major spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen the movie and think you might be interested, I'd skip this chapter of the video, but if you don't mind being spoiled, then stick around. The movie follows Tom, who returns to his hometown on the 10th anniversary of the Valentine's Night massacre that claimed the lives of 22 people 10 years ago in a digging mine. Instead of a homecoming, Tom finds himself suspected of committing the murders, and it seems like his old flame is the only one that believes he's innocent. Throughout the movie, Tom will do everything he can to uncover the truth and clear his name so that the people will stop calling him a serial killer. But of course, if he made this list, that must mean he has some villain qualities, right? Correct. Tom is truly the killer this go around, and he has a split personality that committed all the murders, so he didn't know he was the killer, but eventually discovers the truth in the end. So yeah, definitely a villain if the protagonist turned out to be a serial killer. Number 7. Frailty, 2001. This is one of those first movies I ever saw Matthew McConaughey in, and boy did he act his butt off in this movie. Same with Bill Paxton. McConaughey plays a Meeks brother who at the beginning of the film walks into the local Dallas FBI office wanting to speak to Agent Wesley Doyle. Once Doyle sits down to meet with him, Meeks informs Doyle he knows who the God's Hand Killer is, and he has the full story. The God's Hand Killer is a serial killer the FBI has been chasing for 15 years and still have not been able to catch the guy. Meeks tells Doyle that the killer is his brother Adam Meeks. McConaughey says that for the past 15 years, his brother has been doing God's work in killing anyone who believed to be demons because when he was little, his father told the brothers that they had been chosen to rid the planet of all demons, making it a safer place. God would talk to them and tell them who is mad and what they have done, and then their job was to banish them to hell. A good chunk of the movie is just Meeks telling the story of their upbringing. But when the climax of the film comes around, we learn that Fenton, the protagonist telling the story, was actually Adam, and he saw that his brother was a demon and killed him. Adam then goes to show the agent where the body is, and once they get there, Adam kills the detective as well to cover up any loose ends there may be. Adam was disguising himself as his innocent brother Fenton the whole time. Number 6. Us, 2019. Jordan Peele's second directorial film, and while people don't love it as much as they did Get Out, it still is a decent movie and is definitely rewatchable, especially to look for the clues to the big twist of the movie. The movie follows the Wilson family that is on vacation and are renting a house for the weekend that is in close proximity to where their mother, Adelaide, had grown up through her childhood. When they get settled in after spending a day at the beach, a bunch of lookalikes invade their home and they are doppelgangers of the Wilson family. All four of them have their own tether, it's a one word to call it. The clone family seems to be very confrontational and they want to take the lives over for the Wilson family and will kill them to do so. It seems every single person in America has a clone of themselves that have been living underground all of this time. As the movie goes on, we learn that Adelaide, the mother of the family, and the protagonist actually switched bodies with her tether when she was a little girl, and it was actually the clone that lived the life with her eventually family. And the real Adelaide spent the last 20 years underground with the rest of the clones. And this is why the real Adelaide is leading this rebellion, because she wants her life back. But protagonist, clone Adelaide, has worked too hard to get where she is and won't let her spot in the world be replaced. Number 5. Parasite, 2019. Parasite is one of my favorite Korean movies I've ever seen, and it seems that others liked it so much that it won an Oscar for Best Picture. In this one, it's not so much that the protagonists are villains or anything, but they do act in some immoral ways. But to be fair, if we were in the situation they were in, I don't think it's a wild idea to think we would act the same way. The movie basically follows an extremely lower-class family in South Korea who is struggling to make ends meet. When the daughter gets a job as a tutor for a wealthy family, the poor family takes advantage of her situation, and all four of the family members find themselves with jobs of some sort within the wealthy family. Yeah, they may have lied about a few things, but still nothing harmful was really done by it. Well, when the wealthy family leaves for a vacation, the poor family decides to stay in the mansion for the time being without any permission. While they are there, they discover the previous mate's husband has been living in an underground bunker for who knows how many years. The rest of the movie follows the poor family fighting against the couple in the bunker, and some questionable decisions will definitely be made by the protagonist and makes you wonder if they are more villainy than we initially thought. The lengths people will go for a higher spot on the society hierarchy is jarring and showed in this movie. Number 4. High Tension, 2003. In this fun French horror film, protagonist Marie traveled with her best friend Alexia to spend a couple of days with her family in their vacation home out in the country. They arrive late and are welcomed by Alexia's father, whom Marie has never met before. Later that night, a sick, sadistic killer breaks into the farmhouse, slaughters Alexia's family, including their dog, and kidnaps Alexia and ties her up in the basement. Marie hides from the criminal and tries to help terrified and hysterical Alexia chase the maniac and disclose his identity in the end. Marie is also doing her best not to be caught by the killer, because if she is, they can pretty much kiss any hope of getting out of there away. Well, as the film inches closer to the big reveal, it turns out Marie was the killer the whole time, and she suffered from a severe case of dissociative identity disorder and had an alter ego that she called the killer. I know you may be thinking this twist has been done time and time again, but High Tension was one of the first to do it, behind a few movies in the 90s. So while not an original idea, still a good twist for its time, and obviously the protagonist turned out to be the bad guy. Number 3. No One Lives, 2012. Luke Evans plays Driver, another movie that we never hear the main character's name, who is on the road tripping with his girlfriend Betty. Everything seems to be going fine until they encounter a gang of robbers who tell them to give them everything they have. The group of thieves think the couple to be wealthy because of their clothes and the car they are driving. They end up abducting the couple, but soon they will regret that because Luke is one of the most dangerous men on the planet, and the criminals will find that out for themselves. Betty dies pretty early into the movie, so the protagonist is pretty much just driver. But when the group of criminals look inside the trunk of his car, they find a girl by the name of Emma Ward, who disappeared a few weeks ago after a party massacre took place at her house, and she was never seen after it. The movie follows Driver, and we learn that he is not a good dude, but he is going to go after the bad guys with everything he has and is a vicious killer, and the movie sure does its job at portraying that. He is absolutely ruthless in this movie, but who else are we supposed to cheer for? Maybe Emma, but she's not that featured throughout the movies as much as Driver, so we just have Driver. Number 2, The House That Jack Built, 2018. Ever wanted to see a movie from the serial killer's point of view? Well, The House That Jack Built will deliver exactly that. The movie is in the 1970s, and we follow the highly intelligent Jack over a span of 12 years and are introduced to the murders that define Jack's development as a serial killer. We experience this story from Jack's point of view, as said earlier, while he proclaims that each murder is an artwork in itself. As the inevitable police intervention is drawing near, he is taking greater and greater risk in his attempt to create the ultimate artwork, or masterpiece as he calls it. Along the way, we experience Jack's descriptions of his personal condition, problems, and thoughts about a recurring conversation with the unknown verge, a grotesque mixture of ambiguity mixed with an almost childlike self-pity and psychopathic exclamations. The House That Jack Built is a dark and sinister story, yet presented through a philosophical and occasional humorous tale. I think it's pretty easy to see how this protagonist has villain-like qualities. Hell, I could just go out and say he is a full-fledged villain. Number 1, The Collector, 2009. In this one, I wouldn't go as far to say the protagonist is a villain, but he definitely isn't the nicest guy out there and is a career criminal. When the Chase family moves to an isolated house in the middle of nowhere in Detroit, Arkansas, the protagonist is hired to fix the windows and doors. Later, he meets with his daughter and his wife that has a debt with dangerous loan sharks and needs money ASAP, but his weekly payment is not enough to pay off her debts. Arkin plots to heist the safe of Michael Chase during the night to raise the necessary money to pay the loan sharks. However, when he arrives in the house, he finds that a sadistic criminal has imprisoned the family and planted traps everywhere. Arkin seeks a way out of the deadly house to save his life, and he will make some hero decisions throughout the movie, such as not being selfish when he could be, but we can't ignore the reason he was ever at the house in the first place. He was there to rob the family that was kind to him and gave him a job. But with that said, I was hardcore rooting for Arkin to make it out alive, and also to not get stuck in jail, even if he probably deserves it. And that is it for this list, friends. Any other great thriller movies that aren't exactly the angel protagonist that we usually get, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.